Good evening and welcome to iON Business. I'm your host, Martin Mayer, and to my right, I have Almas Uddin, who is the Managing Director of Revolution Finance, and the gentleman to his right is Soiful Alom, and he is the BBCA Press and Publication Secretary. I'd like to welcome all of our viewers on a glorious day which has seen nothing but beautiful snow covering our lands. So let's hope that once the snow clears up, things are a lot better. Today our discussion is surrounding the business interruption that insurers have until now been refusing to pay out due to the disruption caused by the lockdown, such as temporary closures, arguing that their policies did not cover the pandemic. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts and views on that? I mean, we'll discuss the moral angle of it later, but as from a policy point of view.
Well, I would say obviously these policies are taken by small businesses for the very nature of if there was an interruption, they will get paid out. The issue is here, the clauses that the insurers have put down. These policies, the business interruption policies, were mainly for physical defects like buildings and so forth. And because of that reason, and where the pandemic hit, they're saying, well, no, actually, it's not covered in your policy, and for that reason, they're not going to pay out. So that's the long or short of it, basically.
Okay. I mean, in essence, I mean, the technicalities of the landmark ruling, that's just happened, essentially. That's why we're covering it in today's show. But you as a representative of a catering association, as well as being an operator of multi-cuisine restaurants, how have you been impacted, and how do you feel about what the insurers have so far?
Yeah, it's quite devastating because you take out an insurance policy for this sort of eventualities, and now that we find ourselves in a situation where we do legitimately need to make that claim, we finding ourselves in a position where we are unable to because of certain clauses within the policy. But the biggest problem is, by the time, and we will go into this a little bit later on about this case, that since the lockdown happened, no one has been able to make claims on their policy. That could in turn, could actually fold a lot of businesses before they're even able to make all of these claims, if they are able to at some point.
And if, for example, just to touch up on what you said, if the insurance companies and the underwriters were to pay out, it could be the very nature that they've already folded, so that payment that comes through is too little too late.
Absolutely.
But just to touch on the kind of the landmark case, and because it's just happened so recently and the technical details aren't still very clear, I believe the insurance companies still haven't been informed by those big underwriters. But just to cover, or just to kind of put a brief out there of what the landmark case really is, it was taken by the Financial Conduct Authority in association with of the hospitality campaign groups and the policyholder groups like Hitchcock Action Group and the Hospitality Insurance Group, against the insurance companies. So when this libel case was taken, what the FCA did was they used a representative sample of these 8 big insurance underwriters and the wordings that they use on their policies, and the judge felt that those wordings need to be clarified and understood a little bit more to make it easier on the individual insurer, so he doesn't have to fight that fight. So he's clarified the wording and saying if X is on your policy, that is on your policy, then you are legitimately, you have a claim. Now, of course, the underwriter is going to fight tooth and nail because this is an extremely hot potato.
So what's happened here is it's good to understand the court, the Supreme Court has given a clear definition of what the actual claim is, what are you actually insured for. So now everyone has clarity on what they can claim for. So that's where the issue was, and that's where the financial ombudsman came in, and the FCA went and expedited this issue because obviously the current climate has been very difficult for everybody.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it is good news. Exactly what the wider picture is, we don't know yet, because obviously now the insurer has time to go back and work out roughly what it is they're going to pay out for. It's estimated about 1.2 billion to 1.8 billion pound of claims. So that's a lot of money if you look at about 400,000 SMEs. So what exactly you're going to claim for is hard to say right now. I mean, every insurer would write to the policyholder and your broker. Your broker should be able to advise you shortly. Obviously, they don't know yet exactly what it is they can claim for. So yeah, it is just time process. Yes, you know, current climate, a lot of businesses are suffering. Some may go under. Some already have gone under. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the way the world is, right? So we just have to play it out as much as we can and hold on until these claims kick in, really.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, Almas, thank you very much. It's representing Revolution Finance, and of course your technical know-how in the industry is absolutely of paramount importance. And just to touch up, I think right now there is still a lot of uncertainty in terms of the value of each claim, but that's something, like you said, each individual broker will work with the insurer and then the underwriter.
Yeah, so the actual mechanism to work out how much your loss can be, how much you can claim, it's not clear enough. No one really knows right now. It's too early. The ruling was on the 15th or the 17th of January. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the court needs to, of course, given the insurers time to go back to the drawing board and come back. So that's where we are at the moment. Yes, the ruling is a positive note for business owners.
It's a starting point.
It is
exactly.
I
mean, the courts the insurance companies did inform the judge on the day that within the next 7 days they will be getting in touch with the policyholders that they deem have got a legitimate claim. Yeah,
so if you go back to your policies or the website of the insurers, you'll see notification. So they have got updates on the website. So it's good to go to if you're with Aviva or Hiscox or any insurer, just go to the website and there's an update for the BI test case. So you'll be well informed. It's limited information right now, but over time, there'll be more information, more clarity.
Mm-hmm. Almost you might be able to clarify. Also, we need to, I think, not get ahead of ourselves a little bit, because there is also the possibility that the insurance companies may even appeal against this.
No, there's no appeal.
There is no appeal.
No,
okay.
There's no appeal. They went to Supreme Court. There's no appeal. It's final.
Right. Okay.
It is final, but there's elements that my research showed that there's elements of the ruling that they're still going to dispute.
Yeah.
So it's not absolute, but there is still a long way to go, I think. But certainly as a starting point,
I mean,
it's absolutely fabulous.
from the FCA point of view, I think they wanna finish off quickly because it's very important to small businesses as a whole, the economy as a whole. So I don't think they're going to try and drag it on. I think if you read up on it, it went to Supreme Court with no appeal. So that says, well, really and truly, there's limited scope for them to move. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to go back and argue, which is fine. I think they probably will because it's a big payout. But how, it will have to. There's a time limit because obviously it's important to the policyholder to get paid out, get the money quickly into the business and survive.
I'm sure you know lots of restaurateurs that are absolutely on their knees, and the insurance, business interruption payment would have gone a long way. I mean, I'm sure you got lots of
absolutely.
stories
So
that you can share with us.
our organization, we represent, we roughly have around 400 odd members, and everybody's in very, very similar positions. Some have benefited where the takeaways have gone up because they're in rural areas, but in general, everybody is suffering. I think if they were able to claim at the earlier stage, I think that would have given everybody a better chance to plan ahead and to deal with this situation of uncertainty they're still in, for that matter. We still don't know when we might be able to reopen. So yes, that would have gone a long way into to sustain their businesses.
Just to interrupt you, Saiful Alam, I would like to introduce again Saiful Alam, representing the BBCA. So if you'd like to continue what you were saying earlier in regards to under the current ruling, many policyholders will now have a valid claim.
Yeah, so going back to what I was saying, I think.
So sorry to interrupt, but just to reiterate, it is on the initial first lockdown, going back in March, April, when it was at the beginning of last year.
That's my understanding. Almost I might be able to shed more light on that.
Absolutely.
Sorry, what was that again? Apologies.
The business interruption,
Yeah.
the ruling is just covering the first lockdown.
Yeah, it's only covering the first lockdown.
Yeah.
It's not covering the other two lockdowns
Yes.
we've been in. Yeah.
Subsequent lockdowns that we've had since.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were saying the difficulties that your members were having,
Yeah.
and how.
Absolutely.
Easy.
If the businesses were able to make those claims at the earlier stages, I think it would have given them far better scope for planning ahead a little bit and giving them that little bit of ease, and surviving those who have already actually closed down and have no chance of reopening their businesses. Those insurance claims could have been that lifeline to keeping those businesses open.
Yes, we have a caller on the telephone, gentlemen. A caller, who are you and where are you calling from, please? Okay, sorry, yeah, we've lost them for a second. So, yeah, so if we were talking about essentially the difficulties, but I think at the earlier stages there was also a lot of financial support from the government as well. So I think at that initial stages.
I mean, the issue here is first lockdown happened, a lot of financial aid was given, right, which was very important, which helped a lot of business. What business owners didn't realize, because obviously how would you, how long this situation is going to be. So they didn't plan the cash flow wise enough. So what they done was, first lockdown, they spent out the money, redecorated or re-strategized, and then they've run out of cash now because of the fact that they're again back in square one. So this is where the issue is. I mean, mistake point of view as a businessman, you should have understood the situation and maybe have reserved.
Bear with me. We have another caller on the telephone. Good evening, caller. Where are you calling from, please?
Hello, I'm calling from Burnley. Yeah, I'd like to talk about the COVID-19. Is a COVID-19 this pandemic coming in this all over the year? So we not worry about the money or business closing. Something miracle will be.
Thank you, caller. I think, what was the question in all of that?
I think his concern was that the COVID-19, the virus itself is of far greater issue than the financial remunerations that are in place.
The financial remuneration is a vehicle that allows us to at least continue a remnants of our life, but we're not shying away from the real situation, which is the pandemic and the virus.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we've had great news today and yesterday where we've had approximately 1 million people vaccinated in the last 2 days. You know, so it's been absolutely phenomenal, the number of vaccinations we've had. To date, I believe we're close to 7 million people that's been vaccinated. So if the government stays fixed and true to what they promised us, by the end of February, we could easily be up to 15 to 20 million people that's vaccinated. So that will be a phenomenal achievement, and that will go a long way into restoring our lives as we used to know it.
Yeah.
But to continue our life and we're not going to jump straight back into where we were a year ago.
No.
So we still got to try and continue doing what we did before in a much, much slower pace. But there's still got to be a continuation of our life, of what you do. We have children that still needs to go to. So being the Conservative government being in power, they've got lots and lots of difficult decisions to make. This is not an easy situation anyone's in. But today we're discussing the business interruption insurance policies and the landmark case. So that's what I would ideally like us to focus on, and we are not in any way.
When there's a clearer picture on how much business owners will get, I think what they should really be doing with that money is re-strategizing and understanding what's going to happen in the next 5 years, because there's a lot of challenges in place. So there's a lot of unemployment. There's going to be many variables that's going to affect your business in general. So how do you mitigate that risk? So you need to understand what you can do better to make sure you're ahead of the game. And I think that's what they should be doing, and not make the same mistake they made when they got the rate release, the grants and the bounce back loan, and then splashed out. Not everyone done that, fair enough. People actually spent it wisely and re-strategized and moved into different things. I've seen it a lot, because where I'm in business, I get to see other business owners do amazing things, and which is quite encouraging. But there's been vast majority where they've just taken the money and splashed out, this is why a lot of people are in a situation where they're running out of cash and finding it difficult. Not that it's their fault, but they need to plan better.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you that there have been some numbers who have done that. But on the other hand, I think particularly restaurants within the city or its surrounding, or any city centre, up and down the country, the rents are extraordinary, and the support that's been in place would have been nowhere near enough to sustain their businesses. In any town centre, whether you're in any of the major cities, whether it be Manchester, particularly London, and anywhere, we're talking about in excess of 70, 80,000 pounds, going up to probably 150, 200,000 pounds for the larger operators. So,
and these are 1,500 square foot places, 2,000 at most.
Yeah.
So the challenges has been extremely difficult, and as most operators, I believe, have managed it to the best of their ability. And hindsight is a great thing, but when this pandemic came about, I myself, like with most of the people in the world, thought 2-3 months we could possibly be out of it. And that was at the initial period. But then come January, February, we realized kind of the extent of the problem.
Yeah.
And the long-term issues that we were going to have.
I think what this pandemic has done is allowed the market to correct itself, because what happened here, if you look at the wider aspect, is a lot of people just opening up, and the pricing wasn't there, and the rent is going up, the cost is going up, and they didn't strategize properly. So what it's done, the smaller operators who weren't making money are now closing up and moving on. And it's allowed the market to slowly correct itself and actually give correct pricing which reflects the market to allow, ultimately you're doing business for a reason, to have a better lifestyle. So we allow people to actually re-strategize and bring up the prices, and while bringing up their prices, improving the value and experience within the dining in and the takeaway.
Absolutely, but then you had your big operators like Wetherspoons and everybody else that have been shouting to anyone that would listen that rents, the exorbitant amounts of rents, are what's driving them out of certain key areas. So maybe there needs to be some kind of greater overlook by the government in those aspects.
I mean, there's two ways to look at it, because the property market is a private market, right? So ultimately, landlords are raising debt, which they have to service, which then they have to make a profit from. It's not. Yeah, everyone wants to make maximum, but the commercial rates you're looking at, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So for that reason, the rates reflect. The rent reflects the wider aspect of the property market. So that's always going to go up. You're not gonna get all of a sudden a reduction. Or what's going to happen, developers are going to come in, the government's going to give incentive, turn into residential units or do other things, and these developers will come in and start doing it, which means there'll be a reduced retail space, which means the rent will go up. So
rent and all of that stuff has essentially gone up purely because there's a demand there.
Yeah.
But I believe there needs to be greater regulation, otherwise we might find the boom and bust situation, and doors are opening, 2 months later it's closing, because it's just kind of, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
The numbers that you think you're going to be able to generate in revenue, that's just hasn't happened. But just going back to our discussion today, and the kind of the history of we have a caller on the line. May I have your name and where you're calling from, please? Hello, caller.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
At the studio studio.
Yes, you're live at the studio.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Sheikh Tahir. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
My question is that property market, as your guest saying, property market will go up, rent will go up. I don't understand how, because the interest relief is gone, finished from this year. So mortgage interest relief, landlord don't have it. If they put the rent up, is there enough demand for the rental properties as European people not coming anymore, and a lot of them will be going as well, those who not been permanent in this country?
I mean, that's a very interesting question.
Yes,
and now, so the interest rate relief you're talking about, what's happened is obviously under your personal name, you can't claim the interest as expense, and that's declared as income, and you're paying tax on it, right? So they, what people have been doing is buying under limited company structure. So they're buying properties under limited company where they can claim as expense. Yes, they're not buying under personal name no more, but they're buying under limited company. So
all that does is give the government a larger form of taxation.
Yeah, so basically a lot of landlords weren't declaring, right? So that
Sorry, Almas Bhai, we have another caller on the line. May I have your name and where you're calling from, please? Hello, caller.
So the interest rate relief you're talking about, what's happened is obviously under the first name.
Hello, caller.
And the expense.
I believe we've lost the caller.
Yeah.
So Almas,
So I'll go back onto the last caller's question about why I think the property prices will go up, because it's quite simple. Population is growing. There's not enough housing. That's one. Okay, and normally what happens during the recession, what does the government do? They chuck in incentives for people to buy, which creates a bubble. So that's why you'll see, if you look across the market right now, it's very busy. It's very busy and the price is going up. Okay, so you're gonna have the peaks and troughs. Okay, buyer's market, seller's market, you're gonna have that. But ultimately, it's gonna go up because the value of your pound is gonna go down. Right? If you look at inflation, look at history. Yeah. So it is similar like the stock market, but the stock market is more volatile, where the residential market is a bit more stable. So yes, you may lose, you may win, right? But ultimately, the property market is a safe market, and that's why people go into it.
I mean, one of the key drivers for this huge increase in our cities is the foreign investment.
So yeah, that's
and that's something that we also need to look at, because they're driving up the prices.
Yeah.
And they're buying up properties, whether it's commercial or domestic, and they're laid bare. Nobody's in them.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing more in the business right now is a lot of business owners. I deal with a lot of portfolio landlords and business owners, and what they're doing is diversing. Because of this current climate, they're saying, okay, we need more passive income, so let's invest in property. That's why I've been seeing a really high volume number of business, because of the fact that people just need to diverse right now. Can't rely on the fact that I've got a business, I've got a restaurant, and that's going to give me income for life.
Lovely. Well, we're just gonna hold your thought there just for a second. We're gonna and start a discussion about the interruption that they had in the first lockdown and how potentially they could get a payout.
Almas Bhai, do you want to take that, or?
No, you can start that.
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing everyone should be doing is getting in touch with their insurance company and putting that process in place if they haven't already done so, and wait for a response from them. And if the response is negative, then I think they should write back to them, citing the case that's just happened, for them to relook at that case all over again. At that point, I believe, and again, correct.
So what I'll do, I'll just elaborate a little bit more on that. Okay. So the procedure is obviously you need to communicate with the insurer and your broker. And then from there, if you're not satisfied with the response, then you go to the financial ombudsman and lodge your complaint. They have 8 weeks to respond back to your claim. They'll further investigate, and if they feel that you should be eligible for a claim, they'll make a decision which the insurer will have to honour.
Yeah. If that fails, also, I believe, Almas Bhai, again, you can correct me, if the financial ombudsman, if that fails at that point, you still have the opportunity to take it to the Financial Conduct Authority.
The Financial Conduct Authority is the financial ombudsman.
It is? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that we should be looking for in terms of guidance if our insurance underwriters aren't playing ball.
So the FCA website is a really important website to go into, because there's a lot of vital information about the BI claims, so they keep everyone up to date. Again, your insurer should be communicating with you. If not, if you go to the website, there's communications there. They'll be able to advise you on their protocol on how to make the claim and what they feel that a successful claim looks like. And then failing all that, then obviously you then go to the FCA, the Financial Ombudsman, to review the whole situation. But make sure all communication, everything is documented, because that's very vital.
Absolutely.
Just for clarity of viewers who are probably watching now, and like myself, if they haven't made a claim and subsequently their insurance policy expired and they've taken on another policy since then, what is their process of going back and claiming?
Well, you can, because obviously you were insured for that period by that insurer, so obviously that that policy is still valid because you've paid for that period.
For that time
Yeah,
period.
for that
I
time
think
period.
that's very, very important. And just for clarity, even if your insurance policy is finished, you can still go back, look at your old schedule, get in touch with your underwriter, whether by telephone or email or sending a letter. That process is still there for you to try and make a claim, even though you are no longer with that policyholder. So, I mean, the judge did make a few things clear to the insurance companies, and the Financial Conduct Authority was also kind of quite heavy-handed in terms of showing their support with the ruling that the judge made. But when I said earlier that the insurance companies will go back, and one of the things that they're saying is, for example, your claim might be rejected if you shut shop despite being on the government essential retailers list, meaning you could have stayed open. So one of the other arguments they're saying is, even though we have a caller on the line. May I have your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Matin bhai, how are you? This is Milad.
Assalamu alaikum, Milad bhai. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for the beautiful program.
Thank you.
I can also see Alum bhai there as well. Assalamu alaikum, Alum bhai. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam, Milad bhai.
Everything okay? You're doing a fantastic program. I've got two questions to ask. Please, first question is that obviously we got the lockdown until the mid-February. Do you think that lockdown will extend because of this pandemic is getting very serious and situation is very bad? Do you think that the government will extend that? If they do extend it, how do we make plans for our business? Because obviously we are so much affected. It's unbelievable. It's just not working for us. So our second question is the insurance policy. If the insurance policy basically when this pandemic first took place, I called my insurance company and they said that this doesn't basically COVID-19 is not included, and I cannot make claims. But now obviously things has changed. So do you think I should go back to my insurance company and talk to them and say how do I make claims, and is it possible to make claims? So if you can please kindly answer those questions for me, that would be great.
So if we could go back to the very first question, which was, is the lockdown going to be up to March, and do you foresee the lockdown being extended? There is lots of myths around and lots of newspaper clippings and hearsay that the lockdown could be extended as much as summer. So, gentlemen, maybe Alam Bhai, you as a business owner definitely.
Well, again, as with previous lockdowns, I think one of the problems that we have had with this current government of ours, who has not been very proactive in dealing with the situation that we find ourselves. Unlike many other countries, we have got some great examples in Australia, New Zealand, and even in the Middle East that have managed to remain open.
I think they've been indecisive, and that's what's caused so much anxiety and so much, I think, extra loss of life and uncertainty.
Yeah.
So please carry on.
So to the question from our Milad Bhai regarding whether the lockdown is going to be extended or not, I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of rumors around, but going by previous experience, I think we should allow ourselves that there is a possibility that it could get extended, so that we are in a better position to deal with that.
Certainly, I've seen things that's kind of related to Boris didn't answer if we're going to be in lockdown until summer. He didn't deny either way. So there could be a possibility, but at the rate that we're being vaccinated, I believe if the vaccination rate still carries on and then it vastly improves in numbers, and just the last 2 days we've had 1 million people vaccinated.
Yeah.
Now there's no reason why we can't increase that to 1.5 million. By the time we achieve 20-25 million people, I think the most at risk are no longer there. So I think decisions will be made purely on the numbers that have been vaccinated. That's why they've kind of.
I mean, it's too early to say. I mean, you have to prepare for the unknown, basically, in a nutshell, because no one really knows what this vaccine is going to do and how it's going to protect the wider society. No one knows how this variant is going to, mutate to. It might fizz out. It might not. You know, it's too hard to say. So you have to just play it by ear.
Right now, the saving grace is the variants, the deviants from the original COVID-19 is being dealt with all the two vaccinations. So it's being dealt with. But second question of our caller Milad Bhai was, should he still go back to his old insurance company even though they denied it?
Well, of course, you need to go back to your old insurance company. You paid a premium, you paid that money to be protected, so why wouldn't you?
And the only reason that they should go back is because of the ruling case, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got a claim, you've got a court ruling that that there's potential scope for claim. So you need to explore those issues and see if you can get a successful claim, really. So I would 100% go back and claim.
I think one of the things regarding that court ruling was the court, I think, and again, Almas Bhai, correct me if I'm wrong, they looked at, I think, 21 different policies across the board. And ideal scenario is that one of your policy actually matches one of those policies, then you're in actually a very good position to be able to make a claim. If it isn't, this is where I think the complication starts happening.
But also, just to kind of make things a little bit easier, is the companies that were taken to court, they are most likely the underwriters for most of the smaller companies.
Yeah, exactly.
So the ruling, and the judge was very clear, this is to save all the individual smaller businesses on having to seek lawyers at exorbitant amounts of money to then look at your policy. This should make things a little bit easier. So even if your policy is finished and you've moved on, or you've called your previous company, during the first lockdown, our experts' advice from Almas Bhai and Saiful Alam Bhai is, please go back to your underwriters and start a point of discussion, and then put your claim forward, and then see where that takes you. And if all fails, you've got the financial ombudsman to go to the FCA, and they will help legitimize your claim if it is 100% legitimate. So yes, so gentlemen.
Yeah, 100% what you've just said, I 100% agree with you. And I mean, what's beautiful about our community is that we like to share information with one another. So I think.
Just to interrupt, Almas Bhai, we have a caller on the line. May I have your name, please, and where you're calling from?
Assalamu alaikum, Matin Bhai. It's me, Kodro.
Walaikum assalam, Kodro Bhai. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, mashallah, alhamdulillah. Congratulations on your show.
Thank you.
You're looking very well, thank you.
Thank you. So what's your question, Kodro Bhai?
The question is, first of all, what is the actual clause that says which restaurant can get paid and which business can't get paid? Because as far as I know, anyone with business interruption cover may be eligible to make a claim.
So from the offset, when I said the judge looked at multiple policies, and what they did was a sampling of the words in the policy. Now, Almas, if you represent the insurance company, if you'd just like to just explain that in a much simpler term, what I mean by sample wording.
So there was I think it was 5 or 7 wording they looked at were disease clause, pandemic, and so forth. So if you're unsure that if you're eligible to claim, I mean, you should speak to your insurer, because ultimately they're not going to be, these are big corporate companies.
Yes.
They're not going to be like, no, we're not going to pay out and hang up the phone. They'll speak to you and explain to you whether you have a claim or not, because obviously, ultimately, they are regulated by the FCA. So if they were found to be not fit and proper, then it's a big thing, and it could then go on to further bigger claims.
Absolutely.
So they want to close the door as quickly as possible with at least amount of money as possible. So yeah, I think
and it's a very sensitive subject as well at this moment, especially with the ruling 10 odd days ago. I think everyone that had an insurance policy should investigate it much further. So our hour is almost coming to an end, and ultimately we didn't have a lawyer on the panel today due to last minute changes, but these two gentlemen, Saiful Alam and from the BBCA and Almas Uddin from Revolution Finance, have really imparted with a lot of knowledge in regards to how we should go about trying to make our claim for business interruption. So if there is any issues, or if you're uncertain about anything, please get in touch and we will try and help in whichever way you can. But first and foremost, do go to your insurance broker. They'll be the easiest form for you to try and activate your claim. And on a positive note, we've spoken about the vaccination. There's a lot of great things happening with the vaccination, and a huge number of people getting vaccinated. So my thoughts are, my mother just got vaccinated a few days ago. So if you're invited, please take up the vaccination. It's the only way we can try and get our life back to normal as we used to know it. It's going to be a long while until we go back to normality, but this is an avenue for us to get back to normality. The vaccination, hopefully, is the beginning of the end of this virus. So I would like to wish all of our viewers a really good, safe night. Keep yourself safe, healthy, stay at home, and remember, protect the NHS, and essentially that will save lives. My guests, the same applies to you. Please take care, and once again, a lot of thanks for coming in today and helping us.
Thank you for having us.
Good night, everybody.